Hey everybody, want to welcome you back to I Told My Wife I'm Paying Bills. I'm Slim.
And I'm black once again.
Hey, and we are back once again for another episode. So, this episode is going to be a little exciting. Well, no, I can't say exciting. We're talking about something exciting because this was a really, really dope series. Black and I was discussing some topics and everything like that, and he came up with this great idea to discuss the John Wick series. Now, if you know anything about the John Wick series, that is it's a really dope movie series. It has basically two spin-offs. It has a prequel and it also has a spin-off series, a spin-off film that's coming in 2025. Um but the John Wick series, after many memes and different kinds of things, everyone really knows the John Wick series was kicked off basically because of the love of a dog. So
Oh yeah.
today we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna start off with the first movie, and then we're gonna go into chapter two, chapter three, and chapter four. So the first episode came out in 2014. I didn't realize it was that long ago. I mean,
Yep.
and it's so funny because we say long ago, it was only 10 years ago, but still, that was a long time. 10 years ago was like a
hmm
really long time. That's crazy, you know? And it was followed up by chapter two in 2017. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about number one and chapter two. So before we start though, so Black, I usually ask this. Anything you've been playing lately? Anything new, or you still on Starfield lately?
Starfield. I've been getting a little into back into Doom Eternal. Uh that's I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a game made by one of Bethesda studio. And it's a fast-paced first-person shooter. I mean, if you ever played Doom, the old Dooms,
Hmm.
I mean, Doom Eternal is on another level. I said, I need to get back. It's such a good game. I need to get back into it. And so what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up buying some of the DLC for it. Because I beat the original game, but
Hmm.
I said, I still have it on my games list on my Xbox Series X. So I said, oh my, it's been a while since I played Doom. Let me jump back into it. And I played. I forgot how fast paced and fun the game was.
Yeah, yeah.
So and I mean it's the graphics.
Hmm.
It's really brutal. It's a really brutal game if you know Doom.
So we're gonna go back into another mind blow episode. Oh, speaking of which, I'm gonna say something after this, but another mind blower here is I don't know if you remember. I think we said this on the previous episode. I've never played Doom,
I,
so
I,
yeah,
Neither had I before Doom Eternal.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I played Doom Eternal on a whim.
Hmm.
I said I said it was on Game Pass, and I said, I've never played this game. I
Hmm.
said, let me see what it's about.
Yeah.
And I got sucked into it from there.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And see, I'm seriously scared to get sucked into another game. Um, as we've already discussed too, Starfield is just that it's that game that just sucked me in. I know I spent like over an hour just setting up my outpost, man. It
Man,
was
I'm trying to
it's
tell you,
crazy, man. It is
it's
crazy.
that game is
So
crazy. The game is crazy what you could do in that game. It's just, like I said, I told you before on a previous podcast, 2 hours to
yeah.
build a chip that I really wanted to build,
Yeah,
and I couldn't believe it took that long.
I'm gonna end up having to do that soon too. I mean, I've gotten enough of the credits to build a ship, so I think I really want to build a ship that actually I can defend, I can fly very easily, and it has
Mhm.
like the space. You know, that's the main thing is I want it to have the cargo space. So um, another
Yeah,
mind blower though is it was so funny from the last episode. I think it was the last episode, the episode before that. The Darth Vader, the Darth Vader reveal was funny. I got a little bit of feedback from that. People could not believe you didn't know James Earl Jones was Darth Vader, was the voice of Darth Vader.
I had no idea, bro. I couldn't believe it when you told me. Once you think about it, it makes sense.
Hmm.
But I would have never guessed it. I would have
Yeah,
never guessed it.
yeah, 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 so
I would have never
that's
guessed
true.
it.
Yeah, yeah, so, um
Well, they was tripping because I didn't know.
yeah, yeah, pretty much, pretty much. They were always like, "Oh my gosh," so not everybody, it was a couple people, but,
Yeah.
yeah, that was really funny, so, as far as me, I've only been on Starfield. I've played a couple mobile games, I mean, which is
Mhm.
funny, I think we should get into that, but, I mean, mobile games for me aren't that big, you know, and there's this
No.
one I'm kinda hooked on, I play, like, every day, but, well, a couple I play every day, but for the most part, anytime I turn my Xbox on now, it's Starfield, but I can't wait because, we've got another series that we're about to talk about. It's gonna be probably April's podcast we're going to talk about. So I might get back on that series, and then there's a couple of things that I talked to Black about that we're going to probably get on and play and see if we can actually play together. So uh, look out for that. It's actually kind of interesting. If you're listening now, trust me, this it's an older game series, but not really, and it's dope. So I'm gonna see if I can get Black to play that one. But he's actually considering playing another series. So anyway, let's get into John Wick. So again, starting off, it kicked off in 2014, and I can't remember. Did you see the original in the theater or did you see it at home first?
In the theater.
Oh, word.
I,
Okay,
I saw all of them in the theater first.
that's what's up. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember, but I don't remember seeing any of these in the theater except for maybe chapter 3. I might have, but I can't remember for sure. So, tell me your thoughts on just the first one originally, like, when you first saw it, because you were in the theater and you got all the action, like, boom, like, big
Mhm.
screen, so tell me about that.
Well, my first experience with it, it was actually brought up by an ex girlfriend of mine,
Mm,
and she was like, this movie called John Wick. I think it's gonna be all right. And I said, John Wick. And then she told me about the movie, and then I said, well, let me check it out. As far as like the preview, and I said, well, okay, Keanu Reeves is in it. Okay, so that's what one win for me.
mhm.
You know, okay, so it's got Keanu in it. I said, well, what is it about? They don't go too much in detail. You see some action parts or whatever, but they don't go into too much detail, when you watch the preview. So I
Mhm.
said, okay, well, it looks interesting enough for me to go see. So let me go see it.
Yeah.
And went to go see it and mind blown. You know, uh, just the build up to who he was when
Mhm.
they called him the Baba Yaga.
Baba
And
Yaga.
that means
Yes, I love
the
that
prisoner.
name.
You know, and just the way it starts out. When his wife dies. You know, uh, she had some type of chronic illness, and she died because of it. And it's just the setup for the story is just so interesting. It pulled you in from the very start.
Yes, yeah, it did. So, the whole him mourning his wife at the very beginning of
Mhm.
the oh, and again, I have to go ahead and give our spoiler warning. So even though it's 10 years old, we still have to give a spoiler warning, including for part 4. When we finally get to part 4 is pretty fresh, but it's been
Yeah.
out long enough to where you are being warned. So I'm warning you now for the next episode. There will be some spoilers. If you have not seen John Wick, there's going to be some spoilers here. All right. Um, Going back, starting off with it, his wife's funeral. It's so crazy because the beginning of the movie, all you see is this broken man.
Hmm.
You don't know anything about his history, like you said. They don't tell you much, and you just know it's this broken man. And um, his wife arranged. She knew she was dying, and she didn't want him to be alone, and she
Hmm.
arranged for him to get this puppy after she died.
Hmm.
And that puppy was so so cute. It was a cute little beagle, um,
Hmm.
and he's got the dog. I can't remember if he had the dog when he was at the gas station or not. I think the dog was at the house, or
Yeah.
or he had the dog at the gas station with him.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
But this idiot played by Alfie Allen, which a lot of people know him as Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones. Um, this idiot sees his dope Mustang. I mean, I get it. The Mustang is dope. You know, it's an old school
69.
69 Mustang.
Mhm.
Um, he sees the Mustang, it's like, "Hey, let me get that Mustang. I'll buy it from you." And the whole time, John Wick is like, "No, no." He keeps telling him, "No, I'm not gonna do it, whatever." And
Mhm.
he's like, "Yo, I don't this is my car. I'm not gonna sell it with this and that, whatever." Idiots decide, they find out where the car is. They decide to break into his house and steal the car. And the dumbest thing they did was kill that dog. And this is where all
Oh
the
yeah.
memes come from. This is why
Mhm.
everybody has, there's so many John Wick memes, and I think, I'm gonna post some of the John Wick memes, on our Instagram, page. Uh, but the idiots decide to kill the dog, and that sets John Wick off because
Mhm.
that dog was actually like a connection, one of his last connections to his wife.
Right. Exactly. That was the last memento from her to him.
Right.
And that dog, that puppy meant everything. Everything. It was his last memento. So
And it flipped the switch.
yeah,
That
and it
switch.
flipped that switch. It
Yep.
flipped the switch back to Baba Yaga.
Yep.
Because he
As
was
soon as
done
it.
with that life.
Yep.
And
It
we'll get into it, but he was done with that life. But
and that
they
was the
just brought him
funniest
back in.
part. Let's actually talk about that because, um, he ended up being done with that life because he met his wife. His wife got him out of that life, and he fell in love with her. Her name was Helen. He fell in love with her, and sh she because of her, he actually ended up, going to his boss at the time. I'm about to talk about who his boss is. He went to his boss at the time and said, "I wanna get out." And his
Mhm.
boss was like, "Okay, well, you have to do this impossible task." What do you remember what the task was?
Whatever it was, there was a lot of bodies that were buried that day, and it
I
laid the foundation for what. And we'll get into it, but it laid the foundation for what that particular criminal syndicate was.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
he ended up completing the task, and he got his freedom, right? But he did get that name, Baba Yaga, because he was so good at what he did.
Hmm.
Um, so either way, she got him out of his life, and all of a sudden, these idiots come in his house, kill his dog, steal his car, try to take his car to a chop shop, um, to remove anything that's identifies his car. And the dude at the chop shop, he's like, "Wait a minute, whose car is this?" He's like,
Yeah,
he's like, "Yo, I ain't touching this car. Nah, you gotta go. You gotta
yeah,
go." Dude
yeah,
was
yeah.
was
What did
scared, and that should have given you at the beginning of the movie. That should have given you some kind of indication of who he
yeah.
was.
Mhm.
And so, once he ends up telling the, he's like, "Yo, you gotta go," and then the dude goes back home to his dad, whose dad is a Russian mafia boss.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not even gonna try and say his name. His first name is Vigo something.
Yeah,
Tarasov.
yeah.
I'm gonna try it. Tarasov. Vigo
Mhm.
Tarasov. Um, so you find out that his boss, his the kid's boss is actually, I mean, the kid's father is actually John Wick's old boss, and his
Mhm.
father
That's
like
right.
smacks the crap out of him, and he's like, "What did you do, you idiot?" And then he tells him
Yeah,
the story of Baba Yaga, and he
yeah.
says, "This is who you stole this car from, and you killed his
Mhm.
dog." And it's crazy because, dude, y you actually see the fear in this guy's eyes, and
Mhm.
even though he's like a major crime boss and all that,
Mhm.
he's afraid because he knows his son screwed up. He really knows his son really screwed up.
I'm gonna quote what he says.
Mhm,
Because he punches his son in the stomach twice,
mhm.
and the guy, the hired help, he's like, "Do you want me to go?" He said, "No, you stay."
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
And he's like, it's not what you did, son, that angers me so. It's who you did it to.
Yeah.
And the son, not even knowing who John Wick is, says, "Who? A effing nobody? That effing nobody is John Wick." And that's when he goes into telling him what he did,
Mhm.
and him being a part. He used to be a part of the organization, and
Yep.
what he did to get out.
A
And that's
man
when
of
he's like,
focus.
yeah, a man of focus, something you know very little about. And the son, this is the funniest. After he tells him everything about John Wick and what he did, the son says, "Father, I can make this right." And he says, "Really? How you gonna do that?" He says, "By finishing where I started." And he looks at the bodyguard. He says, "Did he just hear what the hell I said?"
Yep.
And he says, he hugs his son real close. He says, "You know, look, John Wick will come for you,
Mhm.
and you won't do nothing because you can't do nothing. So get the f out of my sight."
Yeah, yes, yeah,
That
and
was the sickest thing ever, boy. I gotta
that
tell you.
scene itself was just crazy. It's crazy because, again, like I said, he portrayed that fear very well. This is a major
Mhm.
crime boss of New York, a Russian
Yeah,
mob of New York, and he portrayed that like, he was really afraid of John Wick. And you seen this. This is all before any of the John Wick's like fights came to scene. Because when they broke in the house, they beat him up a little bit, but he
yeah,
didn't.
it hit him with a bat.
Yeah, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But they actually caught him off guard too, you know.
Yeah, they got him
And
off guard.
they just caught him slipping. After that,
Mhm.
he was not caught slipping again. He was very rarely like, like there people were very rarely. It took a lot of people to get to come after him after that. So,
Mhm.
but so another thing that's kind of funny and kind of symbolic to me is him recovering the concealed stash that he had, the like
Yeah.
the money, the weapons, the coins, and all that.
Mhm.
It was buried. It was really symbolic because it was buried in his basement, under concrete.
Yeah.
So it was almost like that life that he had was buried, and it was done and buried and gone, and it was solidified in concrete. But someone triggered him to where he had to bust out through the concrete to actually, get back to Baba Yaga. you know?
Mhm.
I was like, "Yo." I mean, now when I see that scene, because when I first saw it, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I was just like, "Okay, he's grabbing his stash," It's like, "Whatever,"
Mhm.
I was like, he's getting ready." Now that I know who John Wick is, I see that scene, I'm like, "Oh, it's about to go down."
Sir.
You know?
Yes, sir.
It was like, yo, so
And
go ahead.
it's crazy how they did it, the way they did the scenes, because the whole time he's telling his son the story, Vigo's telling his son about the story. You see cut scenes of John Wick, going down the stairs to the basement,
Mhm,
going to the stash, grabbing the
mhm.
big sledgehammer. you know,
Yep.
it's just crazy the way they set that up. You
Yes,
know,
that was really dope, and so, he goes, gets it, and he actually ends up talking to Vigo. I can't remember if he goes to him or if Vigo just calls him or what. Was it a phone call or did he meet him in person?
no, no, oh no, oh you talk about John Wick? No,
Mhm,
he calls him. He calls him in the actual stash room in the basement.
mhm.
John Wick's got a phone down there,
Yeah,
and Vigo knows the number, so he
mhm.
calls that number, trying to see if John Wick was good. Like, I mean, you know,
He was
what was
basically,
he
"I'm
saying?
sorry."
Yeah, yeah. He basically said, he says, "I'm sorry about your wife, John. My condolences." And John doesn't say nothing the whole
Mhm.
time on the phone. He don't say nothing, and he's like, let us. He goes like, let us not resort to our basic instincts and come together like civilized men. And John Wick just hangs up.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep, he didn't have any words for that dude. He's like, "Nah, nah, partner." He's like, "You're starting to screwed up." So, and I don't know if that what triggered him, like, if he ended up knowing from there or from like when he got beat up, or when he saw him at the gas station, if he knew that was Vigo's son or not. But somehow he ended up
No,
finding out the information.
yeah, he didn't know. He didn't know it was Vigo's son. He didn't know that until he took the bus. because remember there was another vehicle, it was like an SUV that was at John Wick's house.
Mhm.
I think that might have been his wife's car,
Mhm.
his wife's SUV. But they busted that up and flattened that tires too, so he wouldn't follow, so they wouldn't be followed.
Mhm.
So John Wick takes the bus to the chop shop,
Yeah.
where what's his name, Aurelio?
Uh-huh.
I think that's his name. John
Yeah.
Leguizamo. He's
Yeah.
playing as Aurelio,
Uh-huh.
and he walks up in there. And he says, "Is it here?" That's all he asks him.
Yes,
Is
yeah,
it
he
here?
knew. That's right. Yeah, he's the one who told John. He's just like, "Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
son of that New York of the
Yeah.
boss." That's funny. That's funny. So so either way, after finding out the information, and John turning down the attempt to make it right, he puts a bounty on Vigo puts a bounty on John. I
Yep.
was like, why would you do that?
Automatic.
Yeah, why would you automatically put a bounty on John?
Well, no,
You
no. What happened a little bit before that?
Mhm.
He sends hitmen to John's house. You know, because he said Vigo's sitting at the
I
fireplace,
forgot about
and
the
he says,
hitman.
because after he hangs up the phone on him, he says, he talks to his guy. He says, task your crew. He says, how many? And he said, how many do you have? And then once he finds out, John Wick takes them all out.
Yeah,
He says,
yeah,
of course he did. Put a bounty out for John Wick.
yep, yep, and you know what? I think I think if he had just let it out and he just let his son, just let John have his son,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been as bad, but then again, it wouldn't have been as a good movie either. You know,
Hmm.
Vigo should have just given up. He worked with John Wick for so many years, and
Hmm.
he just he still tried. It's like, why would you still try? You
I don't
know
know,
what he's
man.
capable of. Why would you continue to try? That was a really stupid move. You send the hitman
If
out.
you remember, yeah, if you remember, when he's talking to his son about John Wick, he
Mhm.
tells him, and this the crazy thing about it, about his son talking about something, I can make this right. He tells him, say, look, I seen him once kill 3 men in a bar with a pencil, with an effing pencil.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, dude, why? Why would you continue? You just told your son that, but you trying to send a hitman after him? Come
Mhm.
on, dude. Come on. So this dude, he does all that, puts the bounty on John. So John that's when John goes to what is the actor's name? He goes to his friend's house who's also a hitman, the older guy.
Mhm.
Let me look his name up because I cannot believe I forgot it. He's one of my favorite actors, William Dafoe. I love
William
William
Dafoe.
Dafoe. William Dafoe is such
Yeah.
a good actor, and I can't believe I couldn't remember at the
Mhm.
time. Um, Goes to William Dafoe's, and I think that's what. Yeah, he goes to his house, I believe, right? And
Vigo
he,
goes to his house.
yeah, no, not Vigo doesn't go to his house yet. I'm talking about uh John goes to Marcus's. That's his name, Marcus. John goes to Marcus's house, doesn't he? First, either way,
No,
John
no, no. He
he
never
does.
goes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he never goes to his house.
Okay.
That's Vigo that goes to his house.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Vigo, once Vigo puts the hit out,
Uh huh.
uh, Vigo goes because he knows Willem Dafoe's a really good assassin too,
Mhm.
and he knows him and John Wick are friends. That's why he didn't call him. He went to the house because he wanted to see Willem Dafoe face to face.
Okay.
He wanted to see
Okay.
Marcus face to face to see how he would react.
Mhm.
When he says, "Would you kill John Wick for this amount of dollars?" I think it was like $4 million. I think.
Yeah.
And and Marcus asked him, "Was it contract exclusive?" He says, "Yeah, it's a time thing." No, he
Mhm.
said, "No, it's open, but it's a time thing. It needs to be done quick."
Yeah.
And Marcus is like, "Consider it done," knowing damn well he has no intention of killing John.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So that's this, and see, um, now starting to remember that. Yeah, I do remember him actually at the house talking to him now about that, and
Mhm.
it's funny too because now when I'm thinking about it, I remember a scene later on. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he really gonna kill John that easily? Yeah, but no, he did end up not doing it. So yeah, that's right. He ends up enlisting, trying to get Marcus to kill him. And this whole time, this is when John shows up at the Continental,
Yep.
and the Continental is that's again, like I said, there's a spinoff series about that, but it's basically a hotel and a safe haven for contract killers, assassins, all kind of criminal, people. Um, and one of the rules is no business can be conducted on continental grounds.
Yep.
So when they mean my business is no killing, no none of that. All that is not allowed on continental ground. When you're there, it's a safe haven. And I like that about that, because with all the chaos going on, as soon as you're on that continental ground, everything is supposed to be calm. And the reason I say
Yeah.
supposed to be because that comes into play later too.
Mhm.
um, so John's in the continental, and he's chilling. Um, he already has his suit and everything like that. He doesn't get the suit made yet, right? That's the next chapter where he gets the suit made
Right.
there, right? Um,
Mhm.
so John's at Continental, he's chilling, and this is also where we see Lance Reddick, one of his
Mhm.
his all-time best roles, and he plays Kyron, the hotel manager, but it's like he's so subtle and he's so calm the whole time. He's never
All
like,
the time.
with all the chaos going on through the whole thing, he's so calm, cool, and collective, and that was such a dope role for him to play. Um, he's assisting John, and also the manager of the Continental, Winston, he's an old
Mhm.
friend of John's as well. So, you know, that's actually goes goes into play for the rest of the series as well. The fact that John and Winston are friends. So that's actually pretty cool.
Mhm.
So Winston actually uh gives John information about the whereabouts of the Sun, the nightclub,
Mhm.
the Red Circle nightclub. He ends
Yeah.
up giving
Red
him the
circle.
information.
Mhm.
John goes up there and finds the kid, and John's like, basically he convinces him whatever. But before John can actually take him out, he's attacked. That's one of the few times in this whole series that John is actually attacked pretty and actually like pretty bad. And John has to actually get medical attention, so he has to go back to the Continental to get medical attention. So John ends up needing medical attention. He gets attacked, and he ends up needing medical attention at the Continental. And while he's in his room, kind of convalescing and like trying to um, basically re-up. He's getting his energy back and everything like that. Uh, a hit woman played by Adrian Padalecki. She was in quite a few different things. One thing I remember her from that the first thing I remember seeing her in was Agents of Shield, but she was in a lot of different things. She was in Supernatural. She played in I think GI Joe. I think she was Scarlet in GI Joe or something like that. She was in a lot of stuff though. I can't remember for sure if that was her in GI Joe. But Adrian Padalecki, I'm sure you've seen her. I said Padalecki. It's Pilecki. Adrian Pilecki. I'm sure you've seen her a lot. Oh, most recently, she was actually in uh, the Orville. She was in Orville. She played like a second lieutenant in the Orville. Um, so Adrian, what was her name? Miss Perkins, that's her name. Miss Perkins,
Yeah, Miss Perk.
is a hit woman, and she breaks the rules of the Continental. She
Mhm.
actually attacks, uh, John. She sneaks into his room, while he's, like, kinda resting and trying to, get his energy back and everything like that after, like, needing medical attention. Um, she gets into his room and is about to take him out, and across the way, his friend Marcus sees this happening in the
Mhm.
room. He's basically keeping overwatch, and he shoots into the room and wakes John up while John is like, and he sees her, and he's like, gives her the 1-2. John is like on it as soon as he, like
Mhm.
that snap woke him up, and John went right to business, and
Mhm.
he's able to kind of like get away from her, and he ended up finding out that the bounty was actually doubled, and that's when they found out. Okay, well, it went from 2 to 4, um, and it was doubled because of the fact that he was on the Continental ground. So anyone who was on the Continental, that's why she risked that, which was, like I said, really really stupid. Anyway, and she also told John that there's like a high value stash and all this other stuff like that at some kind of church and stuff like that. So John ends up going. Oh, okay. I forgot about this. I forgot. So it says John secures another hitman to secure. He hires another hitman to secure Perkins. I forgot about that. Where basically John
Yeah,
gives him like
yeah,
one of the coins or whatever, or
yeah.
the gold coins or whatever, and then he was just like, just keep a
Mhm,
watch on her or whatever. And dude's like, all right, cool, and so while he's in the like keeping watch on her, she kills him.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. If you remember, she kind of like she kind of breaks her fingers and to get out the cuffs.
Mm-hmm.
And she was real hardcore. You could tell. He says, he rips the tape from her mouth. He's like, don't worry, housekeeping will find you. She says, she says, well, you treat all your women this way, and he says, you my lady, you man are not a lady. But
Yeah.
she ends up killing him. She gets out the cuffs and headbutts him, and takes his gun from him and shoots him with the pillow over his face. I said, good gracious,
Yeah, yeah,
she's ruthless.
and she leaves a whole mess. She
Yeah.
leaves a really, really big mess. So, um,
Mhm.
John ends up going to the church, and this is where what I saw, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, is he really gonna kill him?" But John goes to the church, and he starts to destroy all of the stuff that's in there, all of Vigo stuff, whatever. And Vigo shows up, and actually, so at one point, do you know that shotgun that he has? That in that scene where
Uh,
he's, like, outside, he runs outside and he's shooting at the, truck?
yeah.
I actually got one of those.
Oh
It is act
wow.
Yeah, it's actually pretty dope. It's pretty dope. I'll tell you about that later, but yeah, it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, um, John runs after him after, he comes out, and John comes out with a shotgun and is, like, blasting at the truck and all that, and,
Mhm,
and he it's actually pretty dope to see that, because John is just like, he's like, he's like he just to see him put his life in danger that way,
mhm,
he's going after a truck. you know so either way though, he tries to go after the truck, and I think, I'm trying to remember, doesn't he like run up on one of the cars or the truck or something like that while it's coming straight at him or something? But
yeah.
anyway,
Well, he has a shootout with the guys by the church.
yeah.
And if you remember before he ends up, pursuing Vigo,
Mhm.
in that SUV,
Mhm.
uh, they capture him, and Vigo's having a conversation with him.
Yeah.
They capture John Wick because they end up hitting him with a car.
Right.
Somebody end up hitting him with a
That's
car
right.
and knocking
Yeah.
him out.
Mhm.
So they end up capturing him. And he's talking about, that's what he says. Well, how about this? Just give me your son. You know, he
Mhm.
says, because Vigo gets all frustrated with him and whatnot. He says, what the hell is just the effing dog, just the effing car?
Right,
You know,
yeah.
he says, just a dog. And then John Wick goes into what that dog meant to him.
Mhm.
He says, just give me your son. Uh, now you get no. He gives him a choice. He said, you can either give me your son, or you can die with screaming alongside him. And that's what they put the bag over there. They try to suffocate him.
Mhm, and,
And here comes Marcus. Here comes
yeah.
Marcus again. Hits the dude all the way from the roof on the opposite side of the street.
Yep, yep.
Marcus was sick with that sniper rifle.
Yeah, and that was one of the scenes where I was just like, "Is this really his end?" I was like, "How is this gonna end?" Like, him just with a bag over his head, and then I saw it, and I
Mhm,
was just like, "Okay, is dude," I saw him with the rifle, and I was like, "Is dude gonna take the kill from underneath those other guys just so he can get the bounty?" But then, no, he ends up saving John, so I was like, "Word, that's what's up." I was
mhm,
like, "That was dope," he saved him and all that, so, um and yeah, that's when he goes after Vigo.
Yep.
After his dudes get killed or whatever, he gets away. So,
Mhm.
um, then while all this is going on too, right? Uh, Vigo attacks Marcus later on that night, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So no, okay, no. I'm jumping a little bit too far ahead right now. So after Marcus saves John, um, he ends up finding out from Vigo where his son is. And that's what it
Mhm.
is, and it's so funny too because 'cause they're playing Call of Duty when that happens, but then it's just like you hear the guns and then, it's like, "Oh, no, it's John." So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so
If
right,
you
he gets
remember,
go ahead.
no, no, I was gonna say, if you remember, before he finds out where his son is,
Mhm.
and he pursues Vigo in that SUV. And I remember he's shooting at the SUV,
Yeah.
and he says, "Okay, well, I'm gonna cut you off," because he goes somewhere where he can get in front of the SUV as they're trying to flee.
Yeah.
And he hits the SUV about what 3 or 4 shots,
Yeah.
stops the SUV, and then there's a scene where they zoom out the camera as he climbs on top of the SUV
No, that's what I
and
was
hits
talking
the
about.
driver with a couple more shells.
Yep. So that's the part that I was talking about
That
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the sickest parts in part one.
Yep.
He gets on top of the SUV and shoots inside. Shoots the driver with a shotgun at point blank range.
Mhm.
With Vigo inside
That was crazy. That was so crazy, him doing that. It's funny because the one thing I did notice about John Wick is the accuracy, and I guess this is partially
him. Yeah.
from Keanu Reeves. The accuracy of John Wick, and so a lot of people say, they joke about action movies or whatever and how much ammo they have. He was
Mhm.
running out, he was reloading, you actually saw him have the actual mags on his hip. When he kicked his coat back, you see him have, like, 2 or 3 mags on his hip, and he ejects the mags,
Mhm.
pop another mag in there, and, he's ready to go. The shotguns run out like they're supposed to.
Mhm.
That one actually has, like, 2 magazines in it, so it has more, rounds than the average, but that is so accurate. So, when you see all this happening too, and you see, like him running out. They actually did, a very, very good with the accuracy. That was really done really well. So, yeah. So after he takes out the driver and then he gets Vigo out, he gets the information out of Vigo, and he ends up going up to the safe house and killing Vigo's son. And,
Mhm.
of course, Vigo's upset, Vigo's pissed. Vigo wants revenge, like an idiot. You went through all this stuff. You've told your son how stupid he was for killing the dog.
Mhm.
You told him, and and you fear John Wick, but your dumb, idiot self, um, you want to get revenge on John because he ended up killing your son, right? So he goes and ends up killing and torturing Marcus.
Mhm.
And not only does he do that, he basically calls John afterwards and tells him that because he wants to try to
Mhm.
draw John back to kill him, which was really stupid. Like, John was like,
Crazy.
yeah, John probably wouldn't have known until later on. You could have gotten out of
Mhm.
the country, you could have did whatever, but you had to taunt him to have him come back. So while all this is going on, like I said, that happens at night, later on that night. Um, and while this is going on, Perkins, she gets caught up to by Winston, and that scene
Oh
is
yeah.
is is really dope. I love that because Winston walked up with confidence, and he just walked up on her, and it was smooth because he walked up, said his line, and then walked away, and pop, 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 pop. So he
Yeah,
was,
yeah. Like it won't nothing.
yeah, he walked up,
And
and
then
then
that
he,
cleaning crew.
yep,
The cleaning crew. You remember the cleaning crew, right?
yeah, yeah, they rolled in quick,
They rolled in as soon as they popped her.
yep. And Oh, matter of fact, I think he also had a cleaning crew at his home at the beginning too to clean up all
Yeah.
the
Yep.
hitman that came after him. But
Yep.
it was really cool the little things he said. He was like, you conduct a business on continental grounds, breaking the rules. He was like, your membership has been revoked, and then walked away with the
And then walked away.
smoothness, the smoothness. As soon as he did, like three hitmen walked up and just popped her, pop, pop, pop,
Mhm.
and she just
Done.
dropped. And that's when yeah, like he said, he handed him the coin as like the cleaning crew. So, um, uh, he ended up finding out from John. Well, sorry, John ended up finding out from Winston that Vigo's about to leave the city. He's gonna leave the city by helicopter, and John catches up to him and basically, kills him. Yeah, I can't remember what the final kill was, but basically, John went after the helicopter, which was wild, going after a helicopter. I love that. There's always
Yeah,
got to be, the hero after a helicopter in some of these movies, right?
yeah, he killed him with his own, with Vigo's knife, because they going at it, fighting hand to hand, and then Vigo, of course, he's getting beat up by John,
Hmm.
and pulls out a knife.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, John is so he was so into getting rid of Vigo that he
Hmm.
was willing to run himself into the knife. If you remember that fight, he ran
Right.
himself into the knife just so he could break Vigo's arm,
And that's why he
and
needed
then
he
took
needed to
the
go to
knife
the vet.
out and,
Mm.
and stabbed him in the shoulder like that,
Yeah.
in the shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that because of that because of that, he ends up wounding himself and everything like that. So because of that, he was thinking that he was about to die, and he was ready to die. He goes into this vet clinic, animal clinic, to basically, I think he was gonna try to get some medicine or whatever. But before he does that, he ends up watching a video of his wife. And I think that kinda gave him strength to
Mm.
go on, and then he goes into the
Yeah.
vet clinic. But the best part about that, and that's one of the best endings, um, when he goes into that clinic, he sees a pit bull is set to be euthanized, and he's like, "I'm taking that pit bull." And he took that pit bull puppy home,
Mm.
and that was the end. The end of the movie was them 2 walking away to go home. That was so dope. That was a really good movie.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
That's the movie where I can probably turn it on and leave it in the background and everything, and all that with all this going on, you know, all this going on, I'll still be able to catch it. There's certain movies I could do that with. I could do like with all the Harry Potter series, Star Wars, quite a different other movies. That's one though. The John Wick series I can turn on and leave on, and those are just so good. So
Yeah.
so that was number one.
One thing
Go ahead.
yeah, one thing we forgot to mention was how the movie started is how the movie the same scene how the movie ended, because remember the movie started with him crashing the truck, you
Mhm.
know, the SUV, and falling out the SUV, and
Yes, yes. Mhm.
I totally forgot to mention that. That's what kind of, as soon as the movie started in the theater, you like what's going on.
Yeah, yeah,
And then they go into the story, and it's crazy how they ended the movie just like they began
yeah.
it. you know.
Right. Yes, yes, and that was I kinda love those where you see something happen, and then it's like they tell a story of how it happened, then you see it connected to the ending, and then the rest of the ending.
Mhm.
I like that. I really like that. So then comes the part, chapter 2. And the good thing about I like about these series is they almost connect almost perfectly. With all
Mhm.
these chapters, they almost like jump onto the next one, jump onto the next one, then jump onto the next one. And at the most, it probably looks like it's maybe a day in between or whatever, but it's really not that much time in between the different ones, the different episodes. So that's cool. Um,
Right.
so uh chapter two. In chapter two, I'm gonna roll through this one a little bit so we can actually, meet time a little. But what was it? In chapter 2, it starts off with him trying to get his car back. He gets his car back,
Right.
and then he gets it from the dude's brother. And then takes all the people out. He ends up taking his car for repairs. I'm trying to see what was the actual what was the major story for that one for chapter 2? It looks like oh he could because he yes, that's what it is. So he was basically because he came back to the world, he still owed
Mhm,
somebody. That was the
mhm.
thing where they had the
Yeah,
thing where
he
the
was
go ahead.
yeah, he was bound by a marker,
Mhm.
you know? And because he was bound by a marker, once he came back, once he came back on the scene,
Mhm.
uh, dude found out about it. I forgot what his name was. What was his name? Uh,
The Komoro Karn boss,
yeah,
Santino
yeah, yeah,
D'Antonio.
yeah. Santino. Yep.
Mhm.
So Santino found out that he was back, and he was like, "Well, he needs a job done now."
Yeah,
Because
because he's
now
the one
he's
who
back.
helped him complete his impossible task.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
And it helped him get out.
mhm,
And so he was bound by John Wick was bound by a marker, his
mhm,
marker. You know, so Santino visit his home. You know, and the moment John Wick opens that door, he just knows he's like, okay. You see, behind him, you see all his bodyguards and his peoples and whatnot. So
mhm.
John is like, already you can see it in his face, like, what does guy want, man?
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
And
you
and
know.
and he basically triggers John because John's just trying to recover from the previous night and all
Mhm.
this previous days or whatever, all this works that he did. And the dude blows up John's house with a grenade launcher. And it's just like, dude, I just want to rest. Why are you triggering me? Why are you starting
Yeah.
this? Come on. So,
Yep.
you know, um, so he ends up having, he ends up surviving. So John goes to the Continental and he ends up being told that he can't reject a marker. He was just
Mhm.
like, and it's so funny. That's one of the underworld's two most unbreakable rules. No killing on
Mhm.
the continental grounds, and you have to honor every marker, which is
Mhm.
crazy. That's like the two major rules that you can't do.
Yep.
So he ends up accepting, and he meets with Santino, and he needs his sister assassinated.
Yeah, and the reason why is because she sits on the high table,
Yep.
and he wants her seat,
Hmm.
and he's willing to kill his own sister for it.
Yep. And the high table comes into play later as well.
Mhm.
So yeah. Um, and he ends up sending his mute bodyguard to observe John's mission. So, and the mute bodyguard is isn't that's played by what's her name? Ruby Rose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ruby
that's
Rose.
played by Ruby Rose. So, that actually I don't know. It's so funny because I kind of feel like she was just kind of thrown in there.
Mhm.
I mean, but I don't know. That part wasn't I don't know. That part didn't like I was like, all right, whatever. A mute bodyguard, whatever. you
Well,
know,
she didn't really come off to me as a deadly assassin. You
exactly.
know,
Exactly.
she just seemed like an upscale bodyguard.
She seemed more dangerous in did you ever see Triple X not State of the Union, what's the other one? The Return of
If it
Xander Cage?
if it's not the original Triple X or Triple X State of the Union, no.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, no, it was actually really good. The Return of Xander Cage was actually really good. It's one
Mm,
of those that you watch on a Saturday or Sunday when you're not doing anything. But
mm,
still, it was still good though to me. But she seemed more of like an actual killer in that movie than she did in John Wick. In John Wick, she just
mm,
I don't know. She just to me, she did not seem like she was like a killer, assassin, bodyguard, whatever. She didn't seem like that. So
mm,
it was like to me, she just felt out of place. But anyway, um, so John ends up going and he finds the sister and and she knew he was there to kill her,
mm,
so she decides to kill herself.
mhm.
And John still shoots her, so he can. I guess he can actually fulfill his marker.
Right.
John still shoots her, and her bodyguard comes in and sees it, so the bodyguard starts attacking him. John, goes into the catacombs, and he ends up getting attacked by Ares and the henchmen.
Mhm.
So, they basically
Same
wanted.
ones who hired him.
Yeah, yeah, the same guy who hired him tried to kill him, and he's just trying to tie up loose ends. And so after John basically kills most of the people, he ends up going into one of the Continentals in Rome. And they
Mhm.
basically there was like oh, it was that one hitman too. He ends up talking to him, and then he was
Cassian.
just like, yeah, they're sitting there having a drink, and you know,
Cassian. Yeah, that's after they fought.
yep,
After he kills her,
hmm
Cassian catches up with John Wick, and they start fighting after he gets out of the catacombs, and they end up fighting. End up going down the steps, and they end up going through the window of the Continental, both
hmm
of them. And as soon as they go through the window, the head of that Continental, he's like, gentlemen,
yep,
understand that there is no business being conducted on Continental grounds.
yep,
And they just both stop. They're literally trying to kill each other until they go to the Continental.
yep, and
And
then
he's like, I suggest you have a drink and calm yourselves. And
yeah,
so they go to the bar and start talking.
yep. And so because of that, they're talking, and Cassian, tells John, they have like a nice calm conversation, and Cassian tells John's like, look, man, I'll kill you quick. Don't worry about it. Um he just basically he talks about it too. Doesn't he like give him props? He was just like, I look up to you and all this other stuff like that.
Mm.
He's just
Yeah,
give
well, he was talking about his ward, which
mm,
was D'Antonio's sister.
hmm
Like, she was my ward. I looked up to her and all this other stuff. And because John's telling him, he's look, I had a marker. I
hmm
had no you know,
he had no
and he was like,
choice. He
held
had
by
to
who? Held by who? And he says, her brother. He
hmm
says, uh, oh, I see. So you had no choice. He says, yeah, he wants her seat. And he says he's going to get it now.
yeah,
you know.
yeah. So John ends up getting safe passage back to New York,
Mhm.
and because of that, Santino ends up opening a $7 million contract. So now John has had a 2 million that got raised to 4 million, and that
Mhm.
contract ended up getting null and void once the dude died. But now he has a 7 million contract. um, and it's pretty funny because Santino's just like, yeah, this is, John Wick killed my sister. This is to avenge my sister. It's like, really,
Mhm.
dude, you're the reason why his
Yeah,
sister is dead.
exactly.
Yeah. So because of that, a whole bunch of assassins try to come after John. They really come
Yeah.
for him. They like,
Mhm.
he's like can't walk anywhere. It's crazy. So I'm trying to. I don't
Yeah,
remember the
that's
part
what
where
Winston
he
told
visits him. I
him.
don't remember the part where Winston visits Santino. Do you remember that? Like it's
well,
saying like
well,
Winston and Santino talking.
yeah, yeah. Winston, because Santino goes, once he realizes that John Wick is back in New York,
Mhm,
before he's at this like art gallery or whatnot.
mhm,
Because remember, John Wick, he seeks the help of Lawrence Fishburne, which
mhm.
is the
The Bowery
he
King.
runs he runs the Bowery King. He's the
Yeah.
Bowery guy. You know, and there's a backstory to that too, but I ain't gonna get into it. But
Mhm,
you know, Lawrence Fishburne doesn't want to help him at first.
mhm,
Because he's sort of teasing them about the 7 million, but like, oh man, 7 million.
mhm.
It's Christmas. We all
Yeah,
going out because they know everybody want him dead.
yeah.
But he ends up helping him because John Wick explains to him, if you don't help me, he's going to take over all New York anyways.
Mhm,
So just do you want and his what John Wick says that is one of the best scenes. He says, now now do you want a war or do you just want to give me a gun? And Lawrence Fishburne says, please somebody get this man a gun.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so he goes to Santino in that little art gallery, tries to kill him there, but he flees, goes gets all these bodyguards and whatnot. But and that's when he ends up taking out old girl, the mute girl, in that.
Okay,
You
alright,
know,
alright.
and Santino went to the Continental for safe haven.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
because
Yeah,
you know
he
John Wick
ran.
coming for
Yeah, he ran to the Continental, and the worst part about it
him.
is he ran to the New York Continental. So Santino ends up going to the New York Continental, which was a jacked up move because he knew
Mhm.
John. Well, he had a feeling John wasn't supposed to do anything there at the Continental, of course, because it's consecrated ground and all that, and you know um he was supposed to be in sanctuary. And the whole time, John's running up, going up there, and Winston was like, "Don't do it. Please just don't do it. You know what I have to do
Yeah,
if you
walk
do
away.
this." And he kept telling them, he's like, "Look, man, just don't do it, John." And John ends up killing Santino right there in the Continental.
Hmm.
So because they were friends, Winston gave John a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And Winston, I think it was the next day. The next day, Winston, he has a meeting with John, and he says, the contracts have been doubled on you, and now because of that, you're excommunicado, which
Hmm.
is crazy. He makes a phone call, and basically all over the world, that means John is no longer allowed to actually be on the per the rules of the high table. John is no longer allowed to be protected at all. So it's free reign. 14 million. It was 14, yeah. Um, contract on him. And that was a chilling ending scene
Hmm.
because after he tells us that, you got the phone calls all going and stuff like that, and you see all these hitmen out in the street while John's trying to walk, and he's like kind of doing that
Hmm.
little quick limp walk, whatever. And
Yeah.
oh, you know what? It wasn't even a day. He only gave he held
He
on
gave the
to it
house.
by giving him an hour head
Hmm.
start to provide him. He provided with a market for future use. Excuse me. So he gave him an hour, and he was just basically, he made the call and everything like that, and every high table assassin that is in that network got the notification that John Wick is excommunicado, and to be activated in an hour. And he basically, as John walks and starts to run, and like with a limp and all that, he starts to go. You see cell
Hmm.
phones going off here and there, and people picking up, and it's like crazy. And that's the ending of chapter 2. You know, this that ending alone though is like a wild cliffhanger because you're like, oh snap, this is about to go down. He's about to, all
Yeah.
these people are
It,
coming after him.
yo,
And
it's so crazy. If you remember directly at the end when when Winston's talking to him
mhm,
and he tells him he's excommunicado,
mhm,
you notice all the people in that little area, that little park area,
mhm.
and he makes a phone call and he says, I'll give you an hour and that's it.
Yeah.
And as soon as he says that, he makes like a little signal,
Mhm.
and there's a bodyguard that radios to the rest. Everybody in that park was there to kill John Wick,
That
and
was
they
a
stopped
massive
and
amount
they
of people.
froze. It was a lot of people.
Yep.
It was a lot of people, and the way they played it off, because they played it off like it was like a public area, like it
Yeah.
was just people doing random stuff, talking and
Mhm.
all that stuff. The moment he made that signal, made that bodyguard made that phone call, everybody froze and started looking at John Wick. I said, "Man, you gotta be kidding me, man!
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
crazy."
Yeah. Yeah, so that part is just really, really nuts, because of the fact that how, like, at the end, how everyone is watching, him go by, whatever. And like you said, like with so many people in there, that just shows, like, how serious they are about taking him out, because they were like, yeah, yeah, he's a big dude, we got to make sure we can actually take him out. um so that was crazy, seeing that and seeing him take off. and then all the
Mhm.
phones start ringing while he's taking off, and he's looking around. He's like, "Oh, this person," and the amount of people who are actual assassins who are getting the call, and you just see this person pop up and this person, and all these people looking at their phones and stuff too. That was I was like, "Oh man," the whole time I'm looking at that, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, all these people are going to attack him. And so that actually leads into chapter 3. But for now, we are going to actually pause on chapter 3, and we're going to do that in the next episode, chapter 3 and 4.
Mhm.
Um but please come back and listen. We actually would love if you actually followed along or whatever, or kind of watch the movies, give us your thoughts on it, if you've already seen them, but kind of go into it. Just tell us what you think about this whole series too, because this is such a good series, and they have the two other. I think the Continental, actually, this television series might have been canceled though too. I can't be sure. I think it only
Oh,
had a
really?
couple. Yeah, I think it only had a couple episodes. I got to double check, but I think it's only had a couple episodes. So
Oh, wow. I guess nobody was watching it.
uh,
Or either
yeah, I can't
I,
I can't
I
remember
don't
for
know.
sure. I thought I saw something. I could have been wrong though, because I could be wrong, because I saw a lot of stuff about different things being canceled, and I think the Continental
Mm,
was on that list. But
mm.
I can check real quick. But anyway, um, either way, like I said, please come back for part 2 of the John Wick series. And until then, um, Black, you got anything you wanted to say?
Oh no. Just hey, we appreciate you guys watching. Please continue to follow us. Chris later on he'll name all the avenues where you can follow us and all that good stuff. And we appreciate you watching.
Right. Yep. And like he said, so if you want to go ahead and get in touch with us, you can hit us up on our email. Email is toldmywifepodcast@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at Told My Wife Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. I told my wife I'm paying bills. And it's so funny. I don't last episode, I don't know why I kept saying this. Instead of saying link tree, I kept saying LinkedIn. That's hilarious. Like, you was saying LinkedIn. I must have been using LinkedIn earlier that day or something. I don't know. But if you look on our Facebook or our Instagram, if you look on our Facebook or Instagram, you can actually see our link tree, and our link tree can tell you all the different ways you can actually listen to us. We've got more than just Spotify. We've got Apple Podcasts. We've got uh, iHeartRadio. We've got all these other different avenues that you can actually reach us and listen to us. And again, like I said, you can actually email us, told my wife podcast at gmail.com. Um, but until then, we will be back with part 2. It should be coming out about 2 weeks or so, or a week or so. So please come back and listen. Like, subscribe, share. Tell everyone about our podcast that it's more than just geek stuff, even though it's primarily geek stuff. But anyway, everyone, thanks again for listening. I'm Slim,
And I'm black.
and we wanted to say thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good one.